If you had the chance to change an aspect of your look, would you take it?
The majority of people in society today, living today, wouldn't mind if they could change one or two things about themselves. I mean, we wouldn't have procedures where you do it lunchtime and you go back to the office and no one knows you did anything. Just know that you kind of look different.
It's one thing to survive. It's another thing to come out with a good result.
I've had very good looking clients, very good women come in. You look at their bodies, like there's nothing wrong with your body. You're good. And they think that just that extra nip here,
talk,
a little thing here is going to help. It doesn't help.
And we're still talking about cosmetic surgery here on Straight to the Point. I have Dr. Rex Dafiwari. He's a plastic surgeon, and he's answering a lot of burning questions that I have, and a lot of my friends have asked me to ask him. So if you have questions about plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery in general, go to the comment section and let us know, and we'll direct them to him. Anyways, subscribe to this channel because we already know what's coming up. And don't you want to follow up and see or hear what we are talking about? All right. Dr. Rex, I am very sure you've seen more women wanting cosmetic surgeries, but do you see men wanting cosmetic surgeries? And what are the surgeries, the procedures that men, if you have seen them, what are those surgeries that they want?
It's not very common to have men come in for cosmetic surgeries right now, but there's what's called gynecomastia,
Okay.
which is the enlargement of the breasts. So some men have breasts that are bigger than they should be, and it can be quite embarrassing going to the pool, wearing t-shirts and all that. So that's probably the commonest procedure that we do for men in this climate.
No tummy talk, because a lot of men have.
No, I've had one or two come in, but by the time we discussed everything, they're like, spend all that money for that. Probably the men are not willing to part with that money.
I know. I mean, just to look good when having money is all looking good that a man would ever need. Okay, so let's talk specifics in terms of money. We know that cosmetic surgery is quite an investment because, I mean, first of all, it's not something you need. So for a lot of people, coughing out a huge amount of money to just make yourself feel better can be questionable. But I would ask, what would an average tummy tuck cost? What would an average BBL cost?
We don't like to give such figures.
Oh, come on.
But the only thing, what I can tell you is that sometimes people come in and you tell them how much this will cost, and they say so much. And I said, look, the truth about it is that it may sound mean and harsh, but cosmetic surgery is really not for someone who is struggling. It's not for the poor, except if it's a worthy investment, which, it's going to,
bring in return on investment.
However you want to expound on that, right?
And you're not going to give me numbers. I have heard. Okay, let me tell you.
It's difficult to say. The dollar is on the it's on the rise all the time.
What has dollar got to do with
Dollar
BBL?
has everything to do with it because all the equipment we use is bought outside the country, so it's all imported. It's bought. You pay in dollars for everything you use. So, so you have to tie that. So, but I think people. And then other things will matter, how long you're staying, what kind of rooms you're staying in. So, but the average person may get away with 3 to 5 to 6 million, depending on what you're doing.
3 to 6 million naira.
Depending on what you're doing.
Depending on what you're doing. So this is not, it's not for the weak, just like you said. It's not, it's for rich people or people who have money to invest. In all of the procedures that you've seen, you've talked about what's most common among men, but what would you say is a procedure that's most common among women?
Women want to fix their tummy section, they want to fix the waist, they want to fix the hips, and of course they want the bigger butt. So that's the main thing for most women. Fewer women will deal with the breast. Most African women are blessed with enough volume. What we may see with the breast may be someone wanting a breast lift after children. So a lift is different from an augmentation. A lift is just about the nipple areola position where you want it to be more perky and all that. While augmentation is about volume, then very rarely people ask for a reduction. Because sometimes
it can be really big.
Yes, so you need a reduction sometimes. And that will probably not be classified strictly as a cosmetic procedure because you're solving the problem. The weight alone, it's a problem for some people. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about BBL, which is pretty much the most popular one. What are the side effects? Because we have heard I know it's just is a basic surgery. I mean, surgeries have their what would I call it?
Possible complications.
Possible complications,
Yes.
absolutely. But what would you say are the main complications that could arise from a BBL?
Right. I tend to be very careful when we
I
use the
know.
words complications because the thinking in the mind of people when you say complications is like it's a judgment on you that if you do a BBL, then this is going to happen to you. That's not the language in medicine. When we say complications in surgery, is complications mean something that could go wrong,
Okay.
even if you've done everything right. Now, it's different from me poking your heart while I'm trying to fix your butt. I mean, that is that is malpractice,
So what could
right?
go wrong? Okay. So what could
So,
go wrong?
so things that could go wrong is anything that could go wrong with any surgery. So starting from the anesthesia itself. So this is going to be done under anesthesia. So people may not react properly to anesthesia. Something can go wrong from the anesthetic end of things. So that is a lot of times the problem, right? When you hear people died on table and all that, it's usually an anesthetic problem, right? Either the pastor. So it's not even the surgery itself. So it's the anesthesia that they have to pass through. So with that, there are different kinds of anesthesia. So depending on the procedure you're using, the aim is to go for the least invasive form of anesthesia. But many times, these surgeries are done under general anesthesia because a lot is being done at the same time. It takes long hours, and so keeping the patient awake can be kind of tough. So a
Traumatic,
lot of
actually.
people will go under general anesthesia. So number one complication, something to do with anesthesia.
Okay.
Right. That's why you should have a checkup first. You're going to run some tests before you go under the knife or anything. But even at that, sometimes some things may still not be picked up or something may just go wrong. Some things happen. So that's one. Then the surgery itself, the BBL thing, BBL is about transferring fats from some other part you've taken it and putting it where you need it to be. It's what we call a graft. So it's like taking a plant from one pot, from the little pot, and putting it in the big pot. Now, what could happen is that the plant may not take root in the new place. So that probably is one of the most common complications, that all the fat may not take. And if the fat doesn't take, it now dies. And what's the reason for that? Sometimes, right, a lot of times it's the volume. So if you're doing too much. So I tell people, there's this word that has evolved. As a matter of fact, I was even a patient that first used it. It's called being booty greedy.
Booty greedy. That's a new one. Okay.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
want so much volume, and then your body cannot fit that at that particular point in time. And then, your surgeon puts in so much, then all of it doesn't take. If it doesn't take, the body has to get rid of it. So it leaks out like an abscess. After some time, of course, you'll be fine, but then that adds to your time out of work or something, right? So that's one of the most common complications. Other similar complications are inequalities. It's an art, and you have to use your eye, and the patient is lying down. So when you're lying down, it may look perfect. By the time you stand up, it may not be as good. So you may need to have touch-ups, right? So those are some things that can happen. So inequalities can happen. And then people heal differently. Some
Okay.
people with more scarring, so it may be a little bit hard. But usually, a lot of these things resolve over time. Nature has an interesting way of settling our bodies. So just that you might not be at that place you want to be immediately, it might take some more time to settle.
Does
Right, all
working
that.
out, going to the gym help it?
Usually, no. As a matter of fact, we don't want you going to the gym for some time until we are sure all your tissues have settled in properly into their new accommodation, so to say. So we want you away from the gym for some time.
So they say that for you to maintain the body, you have to work out.
No, to maintain anybody, you have to work out. It's not because you did a BBL. It's because you're a human being. You should work out and do
Yeah,
your
but on
exercises,
social media,
and
they'll
all
tell
that
you that
stuff.
if you don't work out,
No, it's not true. Just like any other thing in life, if you didn't do a BBL and you don't work out, you lose shape. So
can you can you get that big stomach back after you have done a BBL?
theoretically, yes,
Oh,
but it's more difficult. I mean, you have to really work hard to get it back because a lot of times to do the BBL, you've suctioned the fat out of. So everybody has a fixed number of fat cells. So if you have 1 million fat cells, right there, and you sucked out like half of it, So theoretically, you can never be as fat as you could be if you didn't do that. But fat cells are wonderful. They can become very big. So even though you have half the number of fat cells there, each one of those fat cells can become very big. But you really have to have worked very hard, and that's a lot of indiscipline. So I mean,
What causes it to change shape over time? Because sometimes I'll see people who've done BBL and it looks like this. Then after a while, it start looking like this. What happened?
so that's what I said. The way people heal. Now you see some people have surgery, and then the scar it's a fine line.
Yes.
Other people have surgery and then the scar is thick. It can form keloids. That's another matter. It can form keloids. So people heal differently, and you can never tell who is going to heal, which way or the other.
And that's the need for the touch-ups.
Yes. So that's why sometimes we need to do touch-ups for people. And that's why I say when you're doing these procedures, sometimes don't want to do everything at once, because don't use up all your reserves, because if you take out all the fat, and then it doesn't turn out where you're going to get fat to do the touch-ups again. So again, that's another reason why you shouldn't be using your last pocket money to do a BBL, because you just might need to do a slight touch-up, because it's healing. You can never predict healing, but like I said, for the most part, the body has a way of settling things.
It's quite interesting you said that, because every time we talk about BBL, people never talk about this touch-up. You think it's a come and go thing. Afterwards, bam, you look just like that. And everybody...
Yeah.
But then there's the other part where you have to... How many touch-ups? Is it just one touch-up, or would you need multiple touch-ups?
Well, it depends.
Ooh,
It
it may be
depends.
more than one touch-up.
It may be more than one touch-up, but then touch-ups are not as so common, because the truth is that many times if you get it right on table, what you get on table is what you're going to get after. It's just sometimes some things may not quite go the way you...
Okay, so here's my thing, right? I think there are more male cosmetic surgeons than there are females. And so I had a conversation with a friend, and I asked, I'm sorry, I asked him, I said, why are these bum-bums always at the top? Like, I'm sorry, but it feels like the bum-bum is always here. But I thought the bum-bum was at the bottom. And he said something. He said, Gloria, go and ask your son to describe a woman. What he will do is this. But ask a woman to describe a woman, she'll do this. As in, sometimes also, so he was more like, we shape you women the way we see you. Male doctors will shape a woman the way they are taught that a woman is shaped. You women see yourselves shaped differently. Could that be a reason why the bum seem to...
Okay, so let me say something about that. I've had that conversation even with my own wife. Right?
See?
So
See?
she says, why do you guys do this? We don't really like this kind of, it looks like just straight, and then suddenly there's this thin rat. And I tell her, yeah, you're correct. Okay. So, and I ask her, how do you think? And then she says, this is how it should be. Good. So now, the other thing about it is that if you are in an operating room, it's a very interesting place. So when you've done it, you have a number of people there, you have your nurses in there, and most nurses are women. So we ask them, how do you see this? So we go by, you guys are okay, So we take a consensus.
It's a bum city well.
So that's a behind the scene thing, like all the ladies say, okay, we think it's good. But again, it's a little bit tough because, like I said, these women are lying down at the time you're doing this thing. So that can change the way things...
The contour.
Yes. But then there's also what we call awake surgeries now.
Okay.
If you can tolerate it, if you're not that squeamish. So now people are able to have surgeries awake, and you can actually stand up and see, is it okay, lie down again, we're pumping more a little bit there and all that. So, but it's not for the squeamish. What? Yes, it's not for the squeamish. And also it's not for those very large volumes like that Africans always want and all that. It's people who just want to look moderate. I'm one of those people who I'm not an advocate of this excessively large things. I don't think people should look made.
Yeah.
So sometimes I've had to say no to clients. I don't think people should look made. I think they should look like what we call follicum.
Abi?
Yes.
Abi?
You should look natural and have some natural lines and all that. And sometimes women want to say, no, I don't have anything. I said, sometimes, you can't, something like even having some folds.
is
you are made
natural.
to have folds because you
Yeah.
bend. Those folds take for the bend to the left or to the
I
right,
think the
and
problem
all
is
that kind
because,
of
just like
stuff.
you said, how media has portrayed or projects a woman right now, that look of flawlessness.
Yeah.
We begin to forget that we're built with folds, stretch marks. We
Yeah.
have scars here and there, droopy boobs, all of that. We're beginning to lose appreciation for what a woman actually looks like.
Yeah.
And I think that's the battle most of us are dealing with, because the natural woman is almost going into extinction. Like it's like were we able to see the natural woman again with all of the creativity you cosmetic surgeons are doing? But it's incredible what you guys are doing in building the confidence of women back. And well, that's for women who genuinely need it. For the ladies who believe that they need it to, increase their economic value. I think that's so. I'm
Oh
trying
well.
not to use that. For women who use it to increase their economic value.
Yeah.
Well, whatever decision you make, that's just fine. Talk. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I'm so grateful you agreed to do that. I know it took quite a while for us to get here, but
Yeah.
thank you so much. We will direct all the questions to you from the comment section and from the people who might as well want to get across to you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that's a conversation on cosmetic surgery. A lot to unbundle, but then this is as much as we can do right now. But the conversation continues on the comment section. Ask questions, deliberate on it, and then we will get your questions across to Dr. Rex. Woo! This is a big one. This one was for me. Yes, I was thinking about it. Come on, everybody thinks about it. Please hit the subscribe button and put on the post notification. And I forgot to say that please follow all our social media platforms, all of them, so that you have the reels and the shorts and everything. It's been straight to the point.